What's up everybody, GenExDividendInvestor here. In this video I'm excited to show you a new monthly dividend record of mine, and I'll show and explain why I moved my dividend portfolios to Fidelity. So if you dig dividends and like portfolio breakdowns, then I recommend you watch this entire video and please consider hitting the thumbs up button, subscribing if you haven't yet, and click that bell notification. Thanks, I really appreciate your support. So why did I transfer my dividend portfolio out of E-Trade? Well, to start with, each broker has its pros and cons. I actually prefer E-Trade's web user interfaces compared to Fidelity's. Both brokerages have reasonable customer service and security. Which reminds me, everyone should enable multi-factor authentication, and I recommend you use things like RSA security keys, which change every 60 seconds and are needed to log into your account, beyond other security measures that might be offered. I personally rarely use the mobile app for stock trading, though both E-Trade's and Fidelity's mobile apps seemed okay, though neither is nice and simple as Robinhood, which I don't use, nor M1, which I do use. Speaking of M1, they have a promotion running for a free $30 if you make a new account and meet all the requirements. The way it works is you click on my M1 referral link in the description of this video and then either open a brokerage account and fund it with $100, or open a retirement account and fund it with $500. Then you need to keep your money inside the new account for 30 days from the date of deposit to get the free $30. Brokerage hacking like this to get a free $30 is worth it in my opinion. Speaking of free money, part of the reason I switched to Fidelity was because they offered me multiple thousands of dollars if I moved my dividend portfolio to them and kept it there for at least 60 days. I always jump on opportunities to get free cash, whether that's credit card hacking or whatever, and then I tend to drive that free cash into my investments unless I need it. Of course, I recommend you quickly estimate the effort something takes relative to the return. Anyways, the main reason I switched was when I observed that Fidelity tends to pay out dividends faster than E-Trade, anywhere from 12 hours to multiple days sooner. I started noticing on my free dividend Discord that the people who were with Fidelity were reporting that their dividends were paid out always faster than the people on any other brokerage. So like person X on Fidelity who had J&J would report that they got their J&J dividend before person Y who was with another brokerage. I actually have had a Fidelity account for over a decade, but I had never talked to other dividend investors at such a detailed level about when dividends were coming in and such, like I can do on my Discord. Now, the reality is, a few days faster of having your dividend cash generally isn't a needle mover in terms of compounding or whatever, but I still prefer it as someone who is literally living on their dividends. A penny saved is a penny earned. Don't laugh, everything matters. I like to say be penny smart and pound smart. There are other reasons I switched to Fidelity, but first let's look at some screenshots of my accounts in Fidelity to show you how quickly dividends can process. For reference, I hold about 50% of my dividend stocks in taxable accounts and 50% in tax-sheltered accounts. So this is a screenshot of the last 30 days of activity in my Fidelity taxable account. I'm filming this on Friday, April 2nd. Now, Kimberly-Clark's payout date is officially April 5th, but already Fidelity is processing my Kimberly-Clark dividend in this and my other account. You can see in this account it's processing a dividend of $258.78. I'll show you my other account that also has KMB in a moment. Here you can also see my Coke dividend from April 1st for $359.94 was paid out in this taxable account, and then we see that I transferred $458.47 of cash out into my checking account since I'm living on my dividends now. Then we see my March 31st Pepsi dividend was paid out for $458.08 in this account, and you can go down the list and see some other dividends I got in March. I'll show you how much was paid out in March in my spreadsheet in a moment because that's easier to absorb there. Now, the eagle-eyed folks might notice that I also bought one share of J&J because I used to have 899 shares, and my OCD kicked in and wanted to have a nice round 900 shares. If we look at the balance tab for my taxable account, we see the balance is at $1.23 million, and you can see the $258.78 change amount listed, which is the Kimberly-Clark dividend we just saw that was processing. And we see that the cash is settled already, 3 days before the pay date even, but the cash isn't available to withdraw. However, since it's settled, that means you could use it for trading. I actually mentioned that Fidelity seemingly pays out faster than E-Trade to both my E-Trade rep and my Fidelity rep, both of whom were surprised about that, so who knows if something will change or if I'm mistaken. So now let's look at the last 30 days of activity history for one of my tax-sheltered accounts. Here we see my other Kimberly-Clark dividend of $377.34 that's being processed, so across my two accounts it's $636.12 of dividends, which will officially be paid out on April 5th. Beyond KMB, we see my other Coke dividend, some interest on a money market account tied to this IRA, a reality income share I bought because I wanted to get to 1,300 shares instead of 1,299 shares, and a few other dividends that paid out in March, along with some cash that was transferred in from E-Trade, which was a dividend that was paid out over there but wasn't yet swept into Fidelity. What that means is that I had some stocks where the dividends got paid out after I moved to Fidelity, and Fidelity has a process where every week they keep trying to pull everything that was in your old account to ensure that they get everything. So when you switch brokerages, that process is called sweeping. So if we click on the Balances tab for this IRA account, we see that there's about $1.04 million worth of dividend stocks in it. Now let's look at another tax-sheltered account activity from the last 30 days in Fidelity, and this is where you can see more of my O dividends along with Travelers and Home Depot. I bought a share of Home Depot here because again my OCD was kicking in and I wanted 100 shares of it rather than 99. Now let's look at the balance of this third account. Here we can see the smallest account, which is my wife's, is at 92 grand. She unfortunately hasn't had jobs that had anything like 401ks most of her career, and I was too stupid to invest in tax shelter accounts for her when I could. So another reason I switched brokers was because E-Trade had 2 outages in a 7-day span, during which time you couldn't buy or sell stocks, and that second outage happened to be at the exact moment when I was trying to do a large stock buy, which you might have seen in my video called Watch Me Buy $450,000 of Dividend Stocks. And bottom line, I got irked when I had about $500,000 in cash sitting in an account to invest and E-Trade wouldn't let me. Now their tech team resolved the outage issues within hours, but it still frustrated me. Anyways, those were the main reasons I switched. Now let's jump into my spreadsheet where I can show you the new monthly record of dividends I had paid out, which just happened in March. Okay, here we are in my spreadsheet, and I have my positions sorted from highest market value to lowest. So you can feel free to take a screenshot and jump in if you want to see any of the details and how this kind of correlates to the data you just saw in the previous screenshots. So let's take a look at one of my things called the Dividends Received Tracker, and this is one where I document all the dividends I get. These are highlighted in gray, dynamically changes as new months come in and a new payout date is announced. And so you can see for March my record, and so these are all dividends I received. And so you can see across here I hit the record of $8,645.54 for all of these dividends here. Here are the Kimberly-Clark dividends across those 2 accounts. That adds up to $636.12. And then you can see kind of month over month how they have evolved. And some of you eagle-eyed people might realize, hey, why is it that you actually went down in certain cases slightly between December till March, or between, November till February or whatever. And that's because when I transferred from E-Trade to Fidelity, your fractional shares don't transfer. So if I had like 555.3 shares of something, then 555 shares would transfer and the rest was in cash. So that's why you can see a few of these, they've gone down. And if they've gone up materially, that's because probably a dividend hike was announced. Other than the new ones that I bought in that video, which were JP Morgan Chase and Philip Morris and Altria. And so if we go on this tab and we kind of scroll to the right, this is a calendar view, and pretty much everything on the left of this is the month I'm currently in, which is April. And so this tells me that I'm anticipated to get about $6,400 in dividends. And there's that March record of $86.45. So those are all actuals. Everything to the right are estimates. So you can see how the payouts kind of go 6,400, 5,300, 8,500, 63, 53, 85. That's kind of the pattern since most things are paid out quarterly, other than realty income, which pays out monthly. And if we go back and look at these dividends received, I will zoom in a bit so you can see the March ones a little bit better. So specifically we had Chevron who paid out $839, Duke paying out $1,039, Home Depot $163, Johnson & Johnson $907, and then we had McDonald's pay out $528, 3M $805, Microsoft $440, Realty Income $304, Pepsi $785, Pfizer $195, and we have Starbucks at $139, Southern Company at $716, Travelers at $131, and ExxonMobil at $1647. That's how we get to the $86.45. And then if we go into here, we can see in April, the big payouts are going to be the first Altria dividend at $24.32. That's a biggie. And Philip Morris at $15.24. And then we see we've got, scroll this way a little bit more, Coke at about $700, Realty Income at $305, Kimberly-Clark at $636, JP Morgan $404, Leggett & Platt at $389. So that's how we get to the $63.91. And I'll zoom back out. There we go. And I think most of you who have been on my channel are used to seeing this spreadsheet of mine, but if you have any questions, feel free to jump on my Discord and ping me and I can help explain things. You can see the annual passive income is about 81 grand a year at this point. Awesome. So March was the first time I broke $8,000 in a single month from dividends, none of which were special dividends or one-off dividends. Now, if you're someone early in your dividend investing career, then that's no different than you hitting your first $10 a month or $200 a month or whatever. It starts small. It started small for me. When I first started investing, I think I put in only a few grand the first year I invested. I could have invested more, but I was only making $30K a year and was more interested in cars and girls than I was investing. The key for me was to keep investing, even when the markets tanked and even when I was turned off by investing. That's how you get to this spot, and I assure you can do the same if you consistently invest for decades and you live frugally. I never had a YouTube channel that blew up. I never won the lottery. I never had a dime given to me. I started with a negative net worth due to student loans and just kept plugging away for decades. If I did it, you can do it too, and you can probably do it way better than I did if you're in your 20s and are watching this, because hopefully you won't waste your money as much as I did. On my channel, I teach the slow and steady way of investing in quality companies. It's slow, but it works. You can do it. Okay, now I want to shout out some of my recent upper tier Patreons who have joined up. So first, thank you to David, who just joined up as a Patreon king, which is huge. Thanks, David. We can schedule our private 30-minute one-on-one chat for this month whenever you're free. I also want to shout out some new Patreon aristocrats. So thank you, Wiley. Thank you, Alku Monty. Thank you, Martin E. And thank you, June. Finally, if you haven't taken the time yet to join my free Dividend Discord, then I ask you do so now. You can never overeducate yourself, and it's great to rub shoulders with other dividend investors and people who haven't invested yet but want to start. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you again real soon. I am not a financial advisor, and these videos are for entertainment, inspiration, and educational purposes only. Investing of any kind involves risk. I am only sharing my opinion with no guarantee of gains or losses on investments.